This week on Aussie JetSetter, we fly on what is the shortest current flight route between Indonesia and Australia. One that is also arguably the most interesting and undoubtedly the most affordable. We're flying on Indonesia Air Asia's recently relaunched service between Bali and Australia's Northern Territory top end capital of Darwin. A flight so quick that it takes little over 2 hours in duration, and one so affordable that merely $100 will get you a seat on board. But what really is the true state of affairs at AirAsia in 2025? An airline that continues to rack up the very controversial Skytrax World's Best Low-Cost Carrier Airline Award for now a 15th consecutive year. So without further ado, come join me as we put AirAsia to the ultimate test, see if they really deliver on all the hype and live up to the expectation of world's best low-cost airline. Hello, good afternoon and welcome to beautiful Bali here in Denpasar, Indonesia. We've had a great 1 week or so stay here in Bali. First time actually visiting Bali since 2012, believe it or not. Last time I was actually in Indonesia was Jakarta in 2014. So a long time between drinks for me visiting this beautiful country of Indonesia, even though it is such a popular tourist destination for Perth people and of course all of Australia. Anyway, as you can see behind me, we've been staying in a villa all week on a bit of a boys trip. 4 of my other mates staying in this really cool villa here in Seminyak. All chipped in about $60 a night, and we all got our own private bedroom / ensuite. Yeah, communal kitchen area with a really cool pool behind me. And yeah, upstairs we've got like a movie theatre room as well. So it's been a really cool, fun trip here in Bali. Probably hasn't been the most productive week in terms of travel content production here in Bali. Really just been a bit more of a boys week, bit of whining and dining, bit of partying, relaxing, having a good time, whatnot, not doing anything too intensive. So yeah, considering when I'm traveling, I'm usually always on the go, have very hectic schedule indeed. It's really been nice just to take a step back and enjoy a holiday. Anyway, tomorrow it's going to be a very exciting day on the Aussie JetSetter YouTube channel. We're going to do quite an unusual flight. We're actually going to be flying to Australia's northern tropical top end capital of Darwin. Population of only around about 140,000 people. And to get there, we're going to be travelling on AirAsia's recently relaunched service between Denpasar and of course Darwin, which has only resumed in the last few months. It's a 3-time weekly service on the Airbus A320, which actually puts it in direct competition with Jetstar on this route, who operate 4 times weekly, fit on the Airbus A321neo aircraft. It's quite impressive to actually have 2 airlines operating on this route now, considering Darwin's population is only about 140,000 people. Really just have booked this flight actually at the last minute. Actually was originally supposed to be flying Jetstar back to Perth one night late on the Sunday night, but yeah, bought the Flex Plus and decided to cancel that at the last minute. And I realised you could fly to Darwin dirt cheap for just over 100 Australian dollars, which is an absolute steal. By the time I add luggage and a meal and that sort of stuff, I think it was about $160. Here's the shortest flight between Australia and Denpasar, Indonesia, 2 hours and 40 minutes. But yeah, in any case, it's still an excellent value flight. Should be a really scenic one as well. Just don't fly the usual southern route down to Australia, down over the ocean. Instead of flying south, we're actually largely flying east across the Indonesian island archipelago, maybe even over the island of Timor, and yeah, then we'll find ourselves coming into Darwin a little bit later in the afternoon. The departure and arrival time is really convenient as well. Leaves at 12:05 p.m. just after midday here in Bali, gets into Darwin at about 4:15 in the afternoon, 1.5 hours ahead of Bali. Also, haven't reviewed Indonesia Air Asia on the channel before. I've reviewed regular Malaysia Air Asia, also Air Asia X, but not the Indonesian Air Asia. So really looking forward to see how they compare to the other Air Asia brands. So without further ado, all good times have to come to an end here in Bali. It's been a great trip. But without further ado, let's now head to the Bali International Airport tomorrow, where we'll get checked in for our flight to Darwin, capital of Australia's Northern Territory. So yeah, hope it's a good one, and yeah, I'll see you at the airport. Before we head over to the airport terminal, let's have a quick look at our route information for flight QZ540 over to Darwin. Great circle distance on this one is just 1,766 kilometers. Gonna do it in just 2 hours and 23 minutes today. Really scenic flight path easterly across the Indonesian archipelago. This one past just to the south of Lombok, then passing through West Nusa Tenggara over Sumba Island. Then we shade the very southern tip of West Timor before we cruise into Australia, passing over the Tiwi Islands into Darwin. And just like that, welcome to Bali's very well established Igusti Ngurah Rai International Airport. Apologies if I didn't quite get the pronunciation just right. And with shy over 21 million yearly passenger movements according to the latest statistics, this makes Bali International firmly the second busiest airport in the country, after Jakarta of course. Also known as Denpasar International Airport, you'll find Bali's International Airport located approximately 13 kilometers from downtown Denpasar. More specifically, you'll find the airport in the locality of Tuban, which is between Kuta and Jimbaran beaches. For all intensive purposes, you'll find the airport is in an easy 20-kilometer radius of all the main tourist regions of the southern, western and east coast of the island, mainly Kuta, Legian, Seminyak, Canggu, Jimbaran, Nusa Dua and of course Sanur, just to name a few. If you're staying in Ubud, it's more likely a 37-kilometer ride away. Anyway, on to check-in experience. Can't help but notice Bali's airport really has seemed to modernise since I was last flying out of here back in 2012. As with many airports in Southeast Asia, getting to the departure gate does require going through a preliminary security check. I believe you also need to present a boarding pass at this point. It's not your full-on international level of security, but yeah, you do have to put all your possessions through the scanner. There appear to be two main security lines for check-in, both the A and B kiosks, also another for the C, D and E desk. AirAsia is checking in at the E desk, which believe it or not seems to be in its separate little area. All very quiet indeed this morning. Got there about 3.5 hours prior to departure, able to check in straight away, no problem. So really good start with AirAsia this morning. Then I was quickly on to outbound immigration, which only took a few seconds. Able to use the e-gates, all very easy here in Bali. Not sure if that was just because I already had the e-visa organised prior to arrival, or whether all nationals with visa on arrival could use that at departure. Now I was on to the second security check of the day, this time the much more thorough international standard security check with the full international rules in place. Was a bit busy the checkpoint, probably took about 10-15 minutes to get through. Wasn't too bad I guess considering the crowd, but at this point I was not feeling very well at all, so that was a bit of a concern. Then after this you'll whisk through the usual duty free assortment and quite a few high-end retailers. And also kind of a centralized area for food and beverage. Plenty of restaurants and bars to suit all tastes. So if you like shopping and wining and dining, you really come to the right place at Bali Airport. Just don't expect anything to be remotely close to regular Indonesian prices, however. So yeah, really no shortage of options for things to see, do, eat and drink here before your flight in Bali. Plenty of opportunities for a few last bintans as well. Yeah, really not feeling that well at this point. Really got a bad splitting headache. So at this point, I'm literally making a beeline for the departure gate, where I'm just gonna rest up for the next few hours. Anyway, once you do make it to the departure gates, which really seem like quite a long walk, maybe 5 or 10 minutes through all the shopping and dining precinct, really is one big, long, narrow corridor. If you do forget to get something to eat or drink in the main retail precinct of the airport, fear not, however, there's plenty more food and beverage outlets on the way to each and every gate. Anyway, we're flying from gate 6A today, which is a bus gate located underneath the main departure concourse. Once you're down there, there's very limited views of the tarmac action due to most of the windows being frosted. So yeah, really got a bad headache at this point. And no real appetite to eat anything substantial, so I just picked up some snacks from one of the convenience stores and sugary drinks, and sit myself down beside one of the gates where they got these really cool sun lounger style chairs, which are actually really comfortable and offer great views of the tarmac. 965. And it was really cool just to see a good variety of some of the most famous international carriers on the planet, as well as plenty of domestic Indonesian action as well. Anyway, we're about an hour or so to go, move down to gate 6A, which seems to be the slightly less glamorous bus gate area of the terminal. Usually when I fly, I really do enjoy the opportunity to actually get a bus out to the plane, but yeah, today is really one of those days I'm not in the mood for one. With a splitting headache, really do not want a drawn out boarding process. Just want to get on that plane and get back to Australia. At this point, we seem to be having unseasonably heavy rain, which is not ideal and really hope does not delay the flight. Further contributing to the literal headache of a situation I'm right in at the moment is absolutely farcical Australian government regulations that force you to tip out all your water and any beverages that you bought in the terminal prior to getting to the departure gate. So this basically requires a further security check to make sure you're not bringing any liquids on board. Then you're sequestered at the gate for your own Australia-bound departure. No opportunity for water during this period, or indeed on board until the first service gets underway. So this could mean up to probably 1.5 to 2 hours before you got another chance to drink anything. Far from ideal, especially if you're unwell. To make matters worse, airlines such as Air Asia, you're going to have to purchase for any drinks brought on board. Frankly, I don't know of any other country in the world, even the United States, who have this ridiculous requirement of not allowing beverages purchased or obtained post-security on board. Anyway, rambling aside, let's have a quick look at the only real glimpse of our Airbus A320 taking us to Darwin today. It is Papa Kilo Alpha X-Ray Echo. Very simple history on this one, delivered direct to Indonesia Air Asia back in December of 2008, with this aircraft about 16.5 years of age at time of flight. And just like that, welcome on board Indonesia Air Asia's stalwart Airbus A320. 180 seats in total on this aircraft, across 31 rows in a very standard low-cost carrier configured free configuration. Seat pitch is a very average 28 to 29 inch on these aircraft, with a width of just 17 and a 3-inch recline. On board you'll find Air Asia's signature black leather seating, also with a fold-back tray table that also extends. In the seat pocket you also got the standard Air Asia literature, which includes of a safety demo briefing card, also all denominations prayer card.
Number QZ 540, destination Darwin International Airport at Northern Territory. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on final preparation for departure. For information, flight time to Darwin will take approximately around 2 hours and 40 minutes, climbing the target altitude of 35 up to 37,000 feet above sea level. The end of weather for the first 30 minutes forecasted to have a little bit bumpy due to cloud formation around Bali Island, but after reaching cruising altitude, the weather is getting better and we will fly over smooth and fine weather. The latest weather report we monitor from Darwin indicate that weather at Darwin Airport reported to be partly cloudy, visibility more than 10 km, and the average temperature at Darwin now 30 degrees Celsius. If you need to take assistance, please contact our cabin crew by pressing the button above of you. We will come back to you.
Originally I was seated at seats 26A, which slightly disappointingly had someone on the aisle, even though it's a very empty flight. So I did ask the cabin crew if I could move one row forward, got the whole row to myself, which was a real bonus. Once I got to 25A as well, also realised that 26A was missing an air sickness bag and also the onboard magazine. So luckily I've got them in my new seat. Anyway, as you can see, we're now well and truly on our way to taxiing out to the runway. So what better time now to sit back, relax and enjoy our takeoff out of Denpasar, Bali this morning. Then once firmly in the air, I'll go over what you can expect with the onboard Indonesia Air Asia experience.
Main crew, be seated for takeoff.
now that we're well and truly on our way out of Bali, heading east out over the Indonesian archipelago, well on our way to cruising altitude of 37,000 feet. As first order of business for today's flight, before my pre-ordered meal comes around, let's have a look at the legendary onboard Air Asia, and more specifically Indonesia Air Asia's Santorn buy onboard menu, which I must add also appears to be the most comprehensive buy onboard menu that I've seen in the skies. For comparison's sake, while Virgin Australia and Jetstar, as do most other low-cost airlines, literally have a fold-out menu card, Indonesia Air Asia's menu literally has the thickness of a whole magazine. Not only does it have a massive offering of snacks, food and beverages, it also has onboard duty-free offerings and even Air Asia's own range of branded merchandise. How cool is that? So yeah, flown on 3 of the different Air Asia brands over the years: Air Asia X, Air Asia Malaysia, and of course Indonesia Air Asia that we're flying today, and always been super impressed with just how comprehensive and how thorough the onboard menu is on Air Asia. Such a great range of food and drinks to buy, really saying to suit all tastes, and the best part of the menu is the prices. Everything is so reasonably well priced on board, probably at least half the price most items of Australian buy on board menus, some items even a third of the price. The only thing that really is not priced affordably is beer, which I think very much is a deliberate ploy by Air Asia Indonesia on this route to discourage its consumption. At 115,000 rupiah, it is literally over 10 times the price to that of a bottle of water at just 10,000. Also, quite interestingly, I saw if you were going to buy the most expensive can of bintang in Indonesia, you are limited to just 2 per flight. And interesting, never seen such a restriction before, but apparently if you're sitting in an exit row seat, they won't sell it to you full stop. Bintang aside, their Air Asia branded merchandise is really cool. Really like how you can buy model planes, even some special liveries. Also some other really cool Air Asia merch there as well. Duty-free shopping on planes is saying that's really gone out of fashion in recent years. Yeah, Air Asia really seem to be keeping it alive on this service. Not exactly sure how much of it's actually stocked on the flight. Perhaps some of it's more online shopping, not really sure. Yeah, it's a very, very impressive buy on board menu indeed. Next order of business was do the same old incoming passenger declaration for Australia, the same old drab brown cards have never changed, never enough room to fill out your details, and ask many pointless questions they shouldn't even be asking of Australian citizens. Australia is a modern country, absolutely ridiculous we're not doing these things online in 2025. Anyway, a quick more in detail look at the seating. Legroom on Air Asia is absolutely shocking as you'd expect, but the seating itself is actually surprisingly comfortable for what it is, and the recline's pretty good. Also, you got the full range of adjustable air nozzle and also call attendant call button above you, so that's really good. Obviously, I knew this flight was going to be a very quiet flight, so I was very confident I'd get the whole row to myself. But yeah, if you're on a full flight from Perth to Bali, do yourself a favour, pay the extra for the extra legroom. Pretty sure you won't regret it. Anyway, on to the onboard service today. Pre-ordered meals or pre-selected meals courtesy of value bundles are delivered first. These came about just shy under an hour after taking off. Afterwards then they do a buy on board service as well. So here's the chicken teriyaki rice I selected when booking this flight. Comes also with a cup of water, which I thought was a bit of a step down than the small bottle of water last night got on Air Asia. Probably doesn't win any awards in terms of presentation, but from past experiences with Air Asia food, it's always incredibly tasty. Unfortunately, with the really bad headache situation, don't have much of appetite, probably only get through about half it, and I think my taste buds are pretty muted, so hard to really give a fair assessment of it. To Air Asia's credit, it was really well portioned, so I don't think you're going to go hungry. Anyway, now to a quick look at the onboard lavatory on the A320 Indonesia Air Asia. One at the forward left-hand side, 2 at the rear. Really very much a stock standard A320 lavatory. is kept neat and tidy as well, hasn't been used much by looks in this flight. Also got a baby change table, so yeah, no real complaints for the lavatory today. Aside from that, not too much more to report about today's flight. Other than that, it's a very smooth flight. I'm in a lot of pain from headaches, and yeah, outside there is some really great scenery as we fly east out over the Indonesian archipelago. This is typically quite boring, usually nighttime flight that you see back to Australia, mainly over ocean and then of course the vast Australian desert, not much to see at night. Still, we're flying easterly through the Lesser Sunda Islands, over population centres such as West Nusa Tenggara Province, Sumba Island, and of course the southern tip of Timor Island, West Timor, that is in Nusa Tenggara. Then it's a short hop across the Timor Sea down to Australia's top end from there.
20 minutes from now, we are going to start to enter Australian airspace. Ladies and gentlemen, the weather during the flight to Darwin, as we monitor from cockpit view, and also we can detect weather progress up to 500 km ahead of the aircraft. So far, there is no significant weather detected. Clear weather, partly cloudy at the south of Darwin City. The wind blowing from easterly up to 20 km per hour with the ground temperature 30 degrees Celsius. Subject to air traffic control clearance and depends on sequence number of landing at Darwin. Expected we are going to use runway 11 runway that facing to the east. With this plan, our estimate time arrival at time 10 minutes past 4 p.m. Estimate time arrival at Darwin is 10 minutes past 4 p.m. local time, and we have 1 hour and 30 minutes difference time between Bali and Darwin.
Security laws that apply to you. We need your help to protect Australia's environment, unique wildlife, farming, and way of life from dangerous pests and diseases. That's why you must always declare or dispose of food and ingredients such as fruit, vegetables, spices, grains, meat, eggs and dairy, as well as plants, flowers or seeds, and wood and animal products such as fur or shells. You must also declare any shoes or equipment with soil on them, or that have been used in rivers and lakes, or if you have been to a farm or in contact with farm animals in the past 30 days. Remember, all food you are served on board must be left on board. Do not take it with you when you leave. When you arrive, a biosecurity officer will check your incoming passenger declaration, and your bags may be screened and inspected. You are responsible for all items in your luggage. If you don't declare truthfully, it may result in a penalty. Your visa may be cancelled, and you may be refused entry into Australia. You might also be prosecuted in court. If you are unsure, just declare it. You will not be penalized if you declare and present all goods, even if they are not allowed into Australia. We also need to keep people safe.
And just like that, the most spectacular sight appears out our left-hand side window. Now see our first glimpses of Australia's top end. In fact, we're actually flying over the Tiwi Islands now, which are located approximately 80 kilometres north of Darwin, adjoining the Timor Sea. Today is actually my first time ever flying internationally into Darwin. First time also flying into Darwin from the north. And I must say, the experience of seeing the first glimpse of the massive Australian continent flying in from the north really is quite an experience you will never forget. And seeing it so soon after flying over another country is a rare treat you'll usually not get when flying to Australia. So without further ado, what better time now to enjoy our lovely winter dry season landing into Darwin International Airport, which also covers as one of Australia's most strategically important Royal Australian Air Force bases. And then once on the ground, I'll go over my final thoughts and verdict on today's Indonesia Air Asia experience.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have landed at Darwin International Airport of Australia. The local time now is 7 minutes past 4 p.m. The safety please remains seated until the car comes back. Please cover the fasten seatbelts and its face up. Be careful when opening the overhead compartment, and please ensure you have all your personal belongings with you before leaving the aircraft. It was a pleasure to be on board, and we look forward to serving you again soon. Indonesia Air Captain Redianto Sugawan, assisted by First Officer Muhammad Rahul, and the rest of the command would like to say thank you for choosing Air Asia Indonesia as your destination.
And just like that, welcome to Darwin International Airport, which also shares its runway with RAF Base Darwin, one of the most strategically important forward operating Air Force bases in Australia. Anyway, great to be back in Darwin. I think it's my third visit now, first time actually in the dry season, usually up here in the wet season. And interestingly also, it's my first ever time flying internationally into Darwin, which is one of Australia's smallest international airports. Literally only serves a couple of international destinations and a handful at most international flights per day. Literally from here, all you can do is fly internationally to Dili, East Timor, Denpasar, Bali, where we've just been, and also Singapore. Soon there'll be a new Air Asia Malaysia flight to Kuala Lumpur as well. Getting through customs and immigration this afternoon was an absolute breeze. We were literally the only international flight coming in at the time. Literally the whole setup was just opened up to service this flight. We were only 30 or 40 passengers. Literally the whole process only took about 5 minutes. The only other international arrival I had into Australia that comes anywhere close to competing with such a short processing time was when I took the inaugural flight from Singapore into Broome International last year. That only took a matter of moments as well. Anyway, now time to order an Uber for the relatively short 15-minute or so drive into Darwin CBD at a cost of around 30 Australian dollars. We'll wrap up today's Indonesia Air Asia experience. And just like that, folks, welcome to beautiful sunny Darwin here the next morning up in Australia's amazing Northern Territory. We swapped the tropical but unseasonably wet weather conditions of Bali for the very, very reliable dry season, beautiful warm heat of Darwin. Either way you look at it, it's about 30 degrees in Bali right now and about 30 degrees in Darwin. Just a difference in the humidity. Anyway, let's just talk about the health side of things first. It was really a hell of a day yesterday. Probably the most agonizing day I've ever had filming on the Aussie JetSetter YouTube channel. The whole time I was in Bali, was never really feeling 100% to be honest, but not so bad that I couldn't continue with my activities. But yeah, yesterday morning I woke up, felt pretty average, had a reasonably decent headache, and yeah, got to the airport, allowed myself plenty of time to get there because I was expecting all those horror stories about the traffic, and that wasn't the case. Only took 20 minutes or so in the grab. So literally got the airport 3.5 hours early. Didn't take long at all to check in. Yeah, that literally meant I had 3 hours of waiting around. Headache just got worse and worse and worse. And yeah, I was generally not feeling well either. In a bit of pain and that sort of stuff as well. At this point, I'm getting pretty stressed. Just really wanted to get on that plane, get back on Australian soil. So yeah, 12 o'clock came around and we left on time. And yeah, the pain, it just kept continuing on the plane. Felt really, really unwell. But yeah, we finally made it, transferred into Australian airspace. Luckily, it was a very short flight. Once I landed in Darwin, obviously I was very relieved, as you would expect. At least I'm back in Australia. And yeah, the pain and the headache did seem to ease up a bit, so that was good. Probably just a relief of being back home. But yeah, got back to the hotel. Hadn't eaten anything for probably 24 hours at this point. Absolutely no appetite whatsoever. Probably a bit dehydrated as well because you've got to surrender your water before you get on the flight in Bali. Quickly got worse and worse, just kind of returned to the same conditions. My leg felt a bit funny as well, which was I thought was a bit of a warning sign. It's a Saturday night, so no real GPs. I could just walk and get checked out. No real after hours options either. So yeah, believe it or not, that only really left one option. I was pretty worried at this point, especially knowing I've got another flight today. I booked an Uber, went to the Royal Darwin Hospital, 20-minute ride from here, which I was quite shocked that they don't have a hospital in the city centre. Yeah, presented myself there. Luckily it was pretty quiet. Got seen to in about an hour. They just run the usual tests that you do when you go to the doctor's surgery. Also took some blood tests as well, gave me an IV drip, and yeah, luckily the blood test results came in all good, and yeah, the IV drip seemed to help replenish some of my fluids and that sort of stuff. So yeah, they were happy for me to leave after 3 or 4 hours. Yeah, left the hotel about 7:30, got back about 2 a.m. Quite an ordeal here in Darwin. So yeah, my weekend here in Darwin is somewhat off to a rocky start, but at least I'm feeling a lot better today, and they reassured me that I'm probably okay to fly tonight unless things dramatically get worse again. Anyway, on to yesterday's flight with AirAsia Indonesia. Putting aside all the agony of not feeling very well aside, it was a fantastic flight with AirAsia, even if I was not feeling very well to enjoy it. Let's start with the price. Just over $100 Australian one way, the base fare, which is an absolute steal, even if it's gazetted at 2 hours and 40 minutes, the shortest of the flights to Australia. By the time I added all the extra inclusions, luggage, meal, that sort of stuff, I think it was a value pack, it came to 166 Australian dollars, which was an absolute steal. And yeah, obviously was a very quiet flight. Not as quiet as I was expecting, but probably still only 30-40 people on the flight. Believe it or not, there was someone seated on the aisle. Yeah, I quickly asked if I could move one seat up ahead to 25 Alpha and got the whole row to myself. So obviously that would have made it a very comfortable flight if I wasn't so unwell. But yeah, nonetheless, if it was a chock-a-block flight, as it probably would have been if I was on the original flight to Perth, it would have been absolute agony. And yeah, once again, AirAsia, very much like my past experiences, you pay for what you get, and they seem to deliver it very efficiently. They delivered my pre-booked meal, which was a chicken teriyaki. Didn't win any awards for presentation, but yeah, it did look like it was going to be pretty tasty. My taste buds were pretty numb at the time, so yeah, really hard to assess it. But yeah, going on AirAsia food, it's usually pretty decent. And yeah, it was decently portioned. And yeah, would have just liked to see a full-size bottle of water included, not those silly little cups. Aside from that, not much more to do on AirAsia flights, but yeah, at least this is an incredibly scenic flight over the Indonesian archipelago. So yeah, certainly not a boring flight being a day flight coming into Darwin. So overall, I would 100% recommend doing this flight. It's a great way to drop into Darwin, perhaps on the way back to elsewhere in Australia. It's an amazing place up here this time of year in Darwin. So highly recommend it because these flights are very, very cheap. Crew also seem very friendly and efficient as well. We left on time. And yeah, it's really good timing as well, this flight. These are around about lunchtime, so you don't have to be at the airport ridiculously early. You get to Darwin about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so that's all pretty easy. And yeah, your only international flight coming into Darwin at that time. Probably the only flight indeed coming into Darwin at that time. So getting through customs and immigration was an absolute breeze. 5 minutes from the time I got off the plane to being airside. So there you have it, folks. Sorry I couldn't do the outro at Mindle Beach overlooking the spectacular Northern Territory sunset as I had originally hoped. But nonetheless, that's travelling. Sometimes things don't always go to plan. But yeah, really hope you have enjoyed this very incredibly unique flight review with AirAsia. In the meantime, you also visit my website, aussiejetsetter.com.au for latest flight reviews, industry news, destination guides, frequent flyer hacks, and more. Also, don't forget to check out my dedicated socials, my Aussie JetSetter Instagram page. Catch up with what I'm doing around the world in real time. Also got a Discord server these days for fans and community of the channel to discuss all things aviation and travel, so be sure to check out that. But from here in beautiful Darwin, capital of Australia's Northern Territory, thanks so much for watching. Until next one, safe travels wherever it might take you.